Hey there, welcome back to Wild Bird Farm. I'm Tara. I garden here in Zone 5 in central Iowa. If you've been around for a little bit, we did a little bit of a dahlia experiment this year. I sorted my dahlias by color, and the lighter whites, peaches, creams, yellows, I planted about a month earlier than the darker colors, the maroons, the reds, the deep oranges. I like to use the lighter colors throughout the season, but those darker colors I don't use too much until September and October. So I wanted to give you an update. I realize we haven't looked at the dahlia patch at all this year. I wanted to give you a quick update today. So we are here in early July. I am just starting to see some of the first blooms, and I'll give you a closer look here in a minute of the rows. But over here behind me on this side are the earliest planted dahlias, and then they got later as we worked down. I have the netting on most of them. On this last row, I had to grab some more posts, so I don't have those quite netted yet, but a decent amount of work has gone in to getting this bed ready. I put down straw as a weed barrier. This year, the weeds got a little bit away from me in the rows, so I came through. This has probably been 3 weeks ago. I finally took some time. I came through. I weeded in the dahlias quite well. I kind of weeded in the walkways, but then I actually took a huge roll of craft paper. It was 36 inches wide, which is how wide my rows are. I rolled that down a row, and then I put a good amount of straw on top just to block out the weeds. Now, my husband was pretty skeptical about this. He said, oh, those weeds are just going to crawl out. But so far, it's not super weedy. Most of the weeds that I see are actually in the dahlia rows themselves. So I think so far this is a win. I would definitely do it right as I'm planting the dahlias next year. That way I cut out that pretty much full day that I had of weeding to get this ready. But enough about weeds. Let's go and look at the progress of the plants, and we'll see our first blooms. Now you will see right off the bat, my naming and storing convention is not perfect, because in this row, which is Rose Toscano, we got either like a maroon fox or an Ivanetti, but that's okay. Nothing's perfect, right? But I would say one of the first to bloom here is the Rose Toscano, and if you saw that cucumber beetle just fly off of here, I'm going to have to get them netted before I want to use them. Now I did come pinch the plants, and if you're unfamiliar with that, let's get down here low and look at one. So this one was putting up a main spike. And I came in and I snipped that out in order to push more energy into more bloom stalks. So now, rather than having one that would have probably ended up being as wide as a broomstick, I have 1, 2, 3, oh my gosh, 6 or 7. I mean, lots of times there's 3 or 4, but wow, this one had a lot. That just encourages thinner stems, and it ends up being a healthier plant because you don't have that huge one in the center. You can see down there where I also snipped that one off. So I think pinching out that center bloom is pretty important. I'm trying to keep my shadow out of here, but it's getting windy and the sun came out on me. But you can see as we go through the field, these first 3 rows are definitely taller and pushing blooms, where in the back, we aren't seeing as much action yet. Now we do have one rogue bloom. This is Caitlin's Joy. Go take a look at this. Now, did I forget to pinch this one? It looks like I might have. An indicator of forgetting to pinch is when you have 3 kind of all together and none of them are really going to be usable. This one is too short. And these 2 are going to be too. That's why this one's blooming so soon, because I forgot to pinch it. But I can come through and snap this one off now. And then we'll see if these get tall enough. They're probably not going to this round, but it'll set it up for later. You can definitely see there's some weeds. Get this one while we're here. But you can just tell these last 4 rows are a lot smaller, a lot shorter, a lot less mature. I did want to point out, I'll put the link for these tags down in the notes. They come with this clear cover that you're supposed to put on after you write on the tag. And I'm noticing that I missed one. Like these you can still read really well, but that Rose Toscano I could barely read, and it's because it didn't have that plastic on it. So if you're interested in using these tags, I would suggest using those clear covers. See how this one's a lot harder to read, and this is even kind of shaded at this point, but the sun bleaches out a black marker. Now I know there's garden markers, but I just usually use a black marker. So when we are in full bloom, we'll definitely do a walkthrough, and I will show you the varieties I'm growing. But I just wanted to give an update just to let you know I planted out this first bunch in early May. So 2 months later, we are just starting to see blooms. And then these last 4 rows were planted out at the very end of May. And it'll probably be about a month, maybe a little less with hot weather before they are pushing blooms. Which I think this is going to be great because one, I'm going to have a little bit less to manage early season as far as getting covers on because they're not all pushing blooms. We have a lot of pests, so I really have to use those little bags over the blooms. I'll put a link for those down in the notes as well. But then later in the season, if these first few rows are getting a little bit tired, I can kind of just let them go. And focus on these last few in the blooms. I did want to point out this last row is a little bit wider. This is Cornell Bronze. I had so many of those tubers. I put 3 per row, 3 per going the short way in the row rather than 2 that I did in the others. I learned from last year using the garden boxes for the first time that I really needed to leave wider paths. And I also realized since we have a lot of wind, the more narrow the row, the better I'm going to be able to support it. I don't use stakes that you pound in the ground. I use these stakes. Let's see if you can see down here. They have a little, they're metal. They have a little triangle, but they're just like step-in ones. Like you just step in and push them down with your foot. These are a lot easier for me to do on my own. But they aren't quite as strong as like a T-post that you have to pound in. So I found out last year more narrow rows, and then putting these metal posts closer together is hopefully going to keep those dahlias really corralled and protected. I know it was a short video. I mostly just wanted to show you the dahlia box and show you a little bit of the progress. We hadn't talked about it much since much earlier in the season, so I wanted to show that to you. What else am I doing? I'm harvesting a lot of sunflowers and zinnias right now for the focals for my weekly bouquet orders. We have started seeing Japanese beetles. I'm looking at the anise hyssop right behind the camera. So every evening I come out with my soapy water bucket. They've mostly congregated there. I've seen them here and there a little bit. I keep checking my zinnias, which are actually up in the perennial rows this year. I check those every day because they usually get attacked pretty bad. But so far I'm managing them just with soapy water. You just flick them into the water. They tend to want to go down when they're disturbed. So I put my bucket a little bit low. I tap the plant and they fall right into the water. But we've had them very bad in the past, so I'm kind of just waiting for the deluge of the Japanese beetles, but I'm also hopeful that maybe that won't happen this year. Let me know what you're keeping busy with down in the comments below, and if you've had great success with something you're doing with your dahlias, I'd love to hear that as well. We'll see you next time.